And he says as follows: Rabbi Lazar HaKapar, Oymar, he says, Hakino v'hataiva v'hakavid, that these three attributes of Kedem really means jealousy or envy. Taiva is desire, lust, and Kavid meaning honor, the desire for honor, the feeling that that a person is deserving having more honor. These take a person out from the world. So these three correspond also to the three things that the world rests on learning Torah and praying and acts of kindness. But there's a lot here to unpack. There's a lot actually written on this Mishnah, and we're going to go slowly and try to build from the broad to the specific. The first and most broadly is the obvious that humanity, Adam was not supposed to die. Adam was created on Friday afternoon and that Shabbos was supposed to be the eternal Shabbos. But because of these three things of jealousy, of desire, and honor, literally took him out of that world and is now, in this world that Adam is not alive anymore. That death is the result of these things. The commentators point out tremendous connections to the players in that Genesis narrative with also the players in the Purim story. I'm sure we've said this over, but when the Gemara asks Haman min ha-Torah minayin, from where do you know about Haman in the Torah? It says min ha-eitz, from the tree. And the story is told that every person would bow down to Haman, but it didn't make a difference to Haman because there was one person, a Jew by the name of Mordechai, who refused to bow down. Now, nobody bows down to me. I'm assuming most people don't have people bowing down to them. You have one person who gives you honor. They stand up for you. They give you some sort of honorific. They smile when they see you. That's already like something that's like, it's an amazing thing. So imagine that every single person does that, except for one. You would think, okay, I don't need that one. I have all the other ones are more than I actually need. I don't need anyone to give me that kind of honor. But when a person lives off of that kind of honor, like that's their lifeblood. So the commentators say that Haman, it was all worthless to him. It didn't make a difference that everybody bowed down to him because there was one person who didn't. Because once there's somebody who shows you that you're not actually completely in charge, that you're not actually the center of the universe, so then it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. And that's what happens in the garden. God says to Adam, you can eat from all of the other trees. And not only can you eat them, but you should eat from them. It was a mitzvah. It's one of the things that the commentators point out. Adam doesn't say to Eve. Adam doesn't give over the positive of eat from all of the others. He just says, don't eat from this one. But from Adam's perspective, what kind of world is this if there are limitations? How important can I be if somebody's telling me that I can't do something? I don't want to be told what to do. So that desire for the honor, the desire for the experience, and the jealousy that the snake sets up, both the rabbis tell us because of his jealousy of Eve, that's part of it, that the snake wanted that Adam should die in order that he could then marry Eve. There's all sorts of very interesting commentaries of why they both eat from it, in part because if one was going to die, the other one didn't want the other one to be alive afterwards, so they both ate from it. It's all sorts of very strange things that come from this very base space of I need to be on top, I need to be in the center, and those are the things that motivate all of my choices. And the consequence of that is that a person's not actually living their life, right? We all have contributions to make in this world. We all have something that nobody else can do. We can get distracted by, and we will get thrown and derailed when we start chasing these things which are, they're empty. If a person is being honored, it should feel awkward because honor belongs to God. God is the King of all kings. God is, right, the source of everything. We can feel honored to be able to glorify God's name. That can make us feel good. If we're doing work that is good for the world, to have recognition for that work, to advance the cause, that a person takes up space publicly to be able to glorify God's name, all of that is healthy. We're supposed to do the things that make a difference. And we can't do those things free from ourselves. And more than that, to the extent that something is uniquely us, is to the extent that that should be what our contribution is. If somebody else can do it, let them. Let's try to focus on the things that nobody else can do. But the motivation for that needs to be, I'm doing this because it's out of service of God. It's a recognition that this is what my role is, etc. So what happens is that when a person says, oh, there's an opportunity for this, there's an opportunity for this, even if it's meant to be positive, they're distracted from the real contribution. And more than that, if it's coming from a place of negativity, so thank God, Tal's doing a little bit better, and he's out of the hospital, thank God, and he's here. I don't know what today's Monday. I guess I think I picked him up Saturday night. It's a blur. It might have been yesterday. I don't remember. Anyways, he needed some new things, so went to the store and the Marshalls down the street. We got some things. Came back. We realized that they forgot to take out one of those little sensors that beeps if you leave, so that people aren't stealing the stuff. So I don't know what happened to the receipt. Maybe it never went into the bag. Maybe it got thrown away right away. Anyways, this morning we walked back to the store in the rain. And I said, listen, we were here yesterday. We bought a bunch of stuff. And somehow the person, forgot to take off this little electronic thing. Would you mind removing it? Because it's, needs a gizmo. And the woman says to me, well, do you have the receipt? And I said, no, I don't know what happened to it. And they said, well, we're going to need the receipt. Now, a part of me said, I don't need to be here. I'm here because somebody who works for you messed up, right? This is not my fault. But, and I think that people, there's a part of that, you're going to tell me that you need more from me. I'm already doing something I shouldn't have to be doing because somebody on your end made a mistake. So thank God the urge to be obnoxious was relatively low. And more than that, my son Tal was there. And I said, Tal, this is how we respond, right? I said, listen, there's a part of me that feels very sympathetic to you. That of course, you want the receipt to know that it's legitimate. But I did just walk through the door, and I'm here with my son. Yesterday we were here. We bought a lot of different things. There's so many things that the woman forgot to do this. We were here in the afternoon. It can't really be that you need this receipt to be able to take out the thing that clearly you put in there. And they said, well, do you know, was it a man or a woman? I said, the truth is, I'm not sure of the gender because they were wearing a mask and they didn't give me their pronouns. And it could be it wasn't a man nor a woman, but the person presented as. And I'm there with Tal. And they said, okay, you know what? It's not a big deal. And I said, I appreciate that. And I understand that probably when people come back to the customer service department, not everybody's in such a great mood, right? Especially to have to walk back in the rain for something that was not their fault. Anyways, I think there's something that's helpful in that I felt very present. I felt very present, not just as a parent, speaking, trying to model for Tal, this is how we deal with it. It's a frustrating situation. It's an annoying situation. It's a waste of time. None of it should have happened. It's all, felt like self-inflicted. But, I've also been in stores, I'm sure we all have, where the slightest thing, because the customer feels like they're always right and they're at the center of the universe, the smallest deviation from their expectation, and that's it. There's no longer a human there, right? Both is there no longer a human in terms of the customer who's screaming, but they've so dehumanized the person on the other side of the counter because they're seeing that person as that which is getting in the way of their own desires, right? Not that this is a person who's working in this job, unlikely because, right, that this is what they dreamed about doing their entire life, although sometimes, but because this is where they are in life right now, that this is the job that they need to be doing, right? That this is their job. They're working for a reason. Most people don't volunteer at these stores because they think the work is good for the world. It's a job because it pays money. So it takes a person out of the world that they're no longer relating to another person as a human being. And that's the commonality of these three things, that it makes it impossible to be in relationship with them as a person. A person who's driven by honor, it's never enough. It's never enough. Like the Gemara says, a person, never dies with half of what they want. Because whatever you have, you now want twice as much. And it doesn't make a difference. It just doesn't make a difference. And what happens, unfortunately, is, and I think we spoke about this, but there's a great Vilna Gaon that speaks about marriage. The Gemara says that when a person gets married, after about a month, you should ask them, Mitzi or Matzah or Motza, right? So there's two phrases in Hebrew that have a very similar sound, and it's a play on words. One is, I have found a woman, I have found a wife, and I have found goodness. Matzi Isha Matzah Tova. The other one is Matzi Isha Mar Maves. I have found a woman more bitter than death. So the question is, right, you've now been married a month. Which Matzah is it, right? Have you found a woman more bitter? You find a woman more bitter than, or you found a woman and you found goodness. So it's kind of just like, how's married life treating you type question from the Gemara. But the Vilna Gaon points out that when it talks about the goodness, it talks about it in past tense. I found a woman, I found goodness. As opposed to I find in present tense, a woman more bitter than death. Because it doesn't make a difference if breakfast was the best breakfast I ever had, and if lunch was the best lunch I ever had. If dinner's a little bit off, what kind of partner are you? Like, I don't understand. Don't you love me? Why aren't you taking care of me? So when it comes to the goodness, the way that we work is like, that was great, but now what? Right? Like, I'm hungry now. Like, it doesn't make a difference that I had the best meal 3 hours ago. Now I need to eat. So it's a constant cycle of it's never enough, because that was what was. But now what? However, right, when it comes to feeling like that insufficiency, that is always present. A person feels like, they're getting the short end of something. So that's something that they carry with them. So the way in which a person can put themselves back into the world, right, is to recognize that I don't need honor. I'm going to be desiring of something else. I want somebody else's car. I want somebody else's, right? My car, thank God, it has New York plate. It has Virginia license plates. So everybody's very sensitive when I'm parking, like a person who doesn't know how to park in New York City. Like, oh, he's from Virginia, right? Of course he doesn't know how to park, right? It also has been in New York City now for so many years that there are very few parts of it that haven't come in contact with another car. Right, which is fantastic, because my wife has a first cousin. She's a pediatric endocrinologist, and she lives down the street. Parking in New York City is a nightmare. It's horrific. It's one of the things, like, I worry about all of my merits being used up right when I die, because I haven't gotten hit by a bus here in the city. Driving around for parking, I feel like that's also erased a lot of the bad things that I've done, because there are very few things which are as painful, right, as the experience of looking for parking, especially if it's a place to be. So anyway, she's a doctor. She hasn't taken the subways really since whatever, March. And so she drives the car early in the morning. She drives the car. And it's really, it's like a mitzvah mobile right now. And every couple of weeks, she's like, hey, I just have to let you know. So like, I hit this, I hit that, this person. I was like, at some point, the bumper's going to fall off. When it does, just put it in the trunk and I'll take care of it, right? It's such a different way of living. Like, you're not anxious about it. You're not like, it's pushing now 200,000 miles. It's mamash bracha. And right, but the other people that, like, as soon as it's a new car and they move it off the lot, like, they're already like, it's not new anymore, right? Like it's a right. So when we think about things in the physical world as a means to an end, we can be very happy with very little. There's a breeze, there's air conditioning, the lights turn on, right? Like that's an amazing thing. My ancestors didn't have that. In the shtetl, they didn't have that. Right. But when a person is like, no, I need this because I need people looking at me to see, how amazing I am because I have these things. So it can never be perfect enough. It can never one scratch already. It's not the thing that I feel represents me. So when we think about the physical world as a representation of us, that this is an indicator to me, it's never going to work. There are people who we know that their life is tracking, the fashion of the day, right? Do black pants go with blue shirts today or not? And that's their life. They want to be a billboard for I have access to all the things. I'm entitled. I'm privileged. I'm all the things. A person's not living a life anymore, right? I don't have the bandwidth, right, to make sure my socks match, right? Which on Zoom is like helpful now that nobody even knows if I'm wearing socks. So that's I think what this is teaching us, and it's very true. Like, I don't know that there's a truer statement. We all know people who are very happy with very little. They have their health, they have whatever it is. They're just positive people, and they feel good because they're able, to do good things. And like the way in which the world sees them is actually, ironically, with much more glory and honor and prestige than anybody who's chasing after it. Because everybody knows somebody who's chasing after it. Like, it's that, like, about the person that they're always. And you see this in spiritual spaces as well. I had a Rabbi who used to point out that often the people who are praying with the most fervor, they're like shuckling. They're often like looking around to make sure that people see how spiritually focused they are on praying to God. So I don't know if you know, but like at CBST, I sit in the back when we could meet in person. I sit in the back for a lot of reasons. It's one of the customs that I have. I try to sit in the back of every room I'm in. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want to have to be like focused on like, I don't have the bandwidth. It's not coming from a place of humility. It's coming from an awareness that like, if people are watching, like, you have to watch what you're doing because other people are watching you. And I'd rather like just be anonymous. There's something, when I used to work at Isha Tzayra, there was a person, he was known as, he had some sort of pseudonym, but basically he was an anonymous donor. He and his but like a mega donor, like not 7 digits, like 8-digit donor. And he basically called the person, my boss, up and said, listen, you have a choice. Like, if you want, I can write you like big checks, and you can, but the condition is you don't let anybody know who I am. Me and 3 of my friends made a business. We made a lot of money. We live in like an upper middle class neighborhood. Everybody thinks we make, 1/10 of 1% of what we actually have, and we live an amazing life. So if you want, like, we could do that, or if you want, like, we could be friends, and I'll give you $1,000 a year, like other people get. And but he was somebody who was known as Mr. Anonymous, and the value of his being anonymous was worth so much more to him than the honor of getting any sort of award or putting his name on a building. And there are people who are like happy in that place. And money is really what it's meant to be. It's a tool. He's able to give so much more because it doesn't have people, banging on his door. He doesn't have to worry that he's going to synagogue and people are being nice to him because they think that he's because they know that he's worth billions of dollars. So, anyways, those are the thoughts on the Mishnah. Happy to open it back up if people have thoughts, but I can tell you from, yes, please, Doug.
I just need to thank you, Rabbi, so much. You finally explained to me why I'm happy to be not in New York for the last 9 months, because my car has not been sideswiped even once.
Yeah, I have dings on top of dings. I mean, there's like paints on top of paints from cars that have hit. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yes, Ben.
Okay. This is not a criticism, but it looks to me like you took something that was very simple, and for me, you made it very complicated. But I'll tell you why. And I'm interested in the Hebrew for this. Words like honor, recognition, appreciation, glory, and worship. To me, it's the worship part that's the sin. You shouldn't be worshiped for what you do, but you should be appreciated. You should receive recognition. You should receive honor. You just shouldn't expect to be worshiped for it. And I'm wondering what the Hebrew word is in this statement. And then what complicated it for me was that it seems that chasing after it is what the sin is.
Right.
But accepting it, to me, accepting it is not a sin.
These are great questions. Reasonable people can disagree on where to put the line. For example, I'm like, as somebody, for myself, I am very forgiving of my honor. I don't like being called rabbi. Like, I'm just too tired, and like it doesn't do it for me. But like, there's certain things that my kids know I'm deeply particular. One is that there's a halach in Jewish law that children are not allowed to sit in their parents' chair. It's brought down in the code of Jewish law. It's, I think, the only thing that I'm particular about. And my kids know they can't sit in my chair. Wendy sits in my chair. This chair, I'm sure I've spoken about, like, it's 70 years old, and it's like, it's not because of the chair, and it's not because I care. But like, for my kids, I want them to know that like there's such a thing, and like it's a very small space where I'm hyper particular, and because I don't care about them sitting like on the couch or in the other place, and my oldest is now old enough to drive. She sits in the driver's seat when she drives the car. Like, because they know that this is nothing outside of an opportunity to show them what it means to be particular, to give someone else honor. Happens to be because I'm their parent. It's me in this moment, but it's not about me. It's about, you should know how to honor people. Like, that's an important skill set. But I had a Rebbe who used to say, different Rebbe, Rosh Shiva, used to say that we all have different roles. It's the role of the student to stand up for the rabbi when they walk in, and it's the role of the rabbi to tell the students, don't stand up for me. And if either one of those is being forgiving on their role, like, why aren't you standing up for me? Or I don't need to stand up for you, then the system breaks down, right? So that from the perspective of the rabbi, the honor that's coming to them is in order for them to say, I appreciate it, but I don't need that. Like, you don't need to stand up for me. And the role of the student is, I need to stand up for you, because as soon as the Rebbe says stand up for me, the students for sure are not going to stand up anymore, right? So that's how that works. So, but just to go back into because your question's super fair about the language here.
Yeah, which word?
Yeah, so kina really, it's a jealousy of a desire of wanting. It's, when we've in the Ten Commandments, there's this prohibition of coveting, and there's a big dispute in the medieval commentators. I think Maimonides and the Ramban maybe argue, if a person says, "Oh wow, that's a Ferrari, that's nice, I would like to have a Ferrari," that's not problematic. what's problematic is when a person then like starts making plans to somehow acquire it, right? So kina is like a jealousy that reaches a place where it creates a void in oneself. Like I am missing something because I don't have this thing, right? So when a person sees somebody and they have on a wonderful sweater, oh, that's a beautiful sweater. I wish I had such a beautiful sweater. That's not bad. It's that like, you know what, my wardrobe is incomplete and my life is incomplete because I don't have this sweater. That's like the level of jealousy that's problematic there. Taiva is desire, and desire here in the commentaries, the Bartanura and I think Rashi and others, here it's like really physical things. It's a desire for like gluttony, like for eating too much and for drinking too much and engage in physicality. That is like physicality for physicality. And again, the idea here that it takes a person outside of their life is that, let's say a person is sitting and it's almost 3 o'clock here on the East Coast. So a person says, oh, I'm hungry. Dinner's at 5. Okay, great. So I'm going to be hungry for 2 hours. Time is like, you know what? I actually can't function because I saw a commercial for this hamburger, and like until I have this hamburger, like I just can't focus because that's the only thing that's on my mind. So that's like a level of desire that like you just can't control. Like you're distracted by it. So we all want things because healthy people do things that make themselves feel good. Like that's actually coming from a place that God created us to give us pleasure. It's healthy for people to want to do things, right, appropriate things that make them feel good. But this level of time is that like I can't actually. There's nothing else I can do. Like until I do this thing, I can't function. And here also, I think you're right. The word of the hakavod, it's a very specific type of kavod that a person feels slighted. A person feels here. Every so often this happens to me, and I'm not sure that I'm wrong. Meaning, someone who wants to talk to me, and fantastic, and so it's part of the job. And I don't have like normal hours because I deal with people all over the world, and so like, and I don't sleep a lot, and so like it's not uncommon for it to be 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 8 o'clock at night. But if somebody's on the West Coast, on the East Coast, they're in New York, and they're like, hey Rabbi, I really would like to talk to you. I have a big favor to ask. Blah blah blah. And then okay, great, no problem. I'm happy to be helpful. And then like it's, let's say 7 o'clock. And then they sit down and they're like, hold on a second, my dinner's almost ready. And I'm like, okay, fine, it's a Zoom thing. And I'll wait, right? In other words, I'll wait. Not a big deal. And okay, great. Let me just get something to drink. Okay, let me just do this. And so I'm waiting for 5 minutes on a Zoom thing, like waiting for them. And they sit down, and then we sit down and they just start eating at the beginning of this meeting. I feel like it's not nice. It's not nice. And I feel like it's not because it's not nice because it's me. It wouldn't be nice if it was my kid. It wouldn't be nice if it was any person. It's not because so I feel like so what I think is tricky is, right? So a person feels how they feel, and a person as a rule, I think, in healthy places when it's like a one-off thing like that, person doesn't ever lose by being mavatal, by nullifying it. I didn't say anything to the person. They asked for my help again. I prep myself. Okay, if it's not gonna be dinner, it's gonna be lunchtime, it's gonna be breakfast. She just assumed that this is a person who uses these meetings as a time to eat, not for me to judge. But this time, don't get annoyed, because I was annoyed. I was like, it's not cool. But I think that when we think about the opportunity, even when we're entitled, like an average normal person would say, like, this is not cool. To say, like, I'm happy to help you, but I am kind of busy, and like, to have me wait, it's not cool to keep someone waiting. Like, it's one thing you're a doctor, you go to the doctor's office, you sit in the thing because like that's the way the system works. To have a Zoom meeting with somebody where you email them, you say, listen, I'm running 5 minutes late, I'm running 10 minutes late. Like it's like there's a normal way to get out of it. So I think what's helpful, at least for me to remember, is like, okay, not everybody had the same education or environment or people saying to them along the way, like this is like what's acceptable behavior. And so in that moment, it's a great opportunity to say, like, I know that I am worthy of more honor, but I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm going to have compassion and feel bad that this person is in such a situation. Yeah, please.
But meanwhile,
yeah,
we'll let someone else talk. But meanwhile, I just want to say something about that. You are a rabbi,
yeah.
Okay? You really should say to this person, because in a small way, you're repairing the world by helping this person do the right thing. If they're a repeat offender, you actually should say something to them.
I think you're right. I was thinking about like the way to say it, and what I thought of was like, I know that you don't want, I know that you value my time so much that you didn't want to like email me and tell me that you're going to be 10 or 15 minutes late. But really, from my perspective, eat and then call me when you're done. I feel like something like that maybe, but yeah, it's tricky because it's tricky, and I appreciate it. because I know that as a rule, there are very certain things that set me off, but as a rule, I'm pretty forgiving because I want people to be forgiving of me because I'm also not like the most sensitive or aware of all the things. But I appreciate that. Were there any other comments or thoughts on this mission? Yes, Saul.
I think Hannah's hand was up before mine, and she's been waiting.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
So you spoke about the man who had a lot of money and could give a lot of money on the condition that he was anonymous. But there's nobody who's anonymous, because the people he gives the money to know. And when they see him, they respect, they give him the kavod they think he deserves. And because I, who never have had a lot of money, but so I worked at synagogue. I gave a lot of me to CBST, right? And so people sometimes say, well, why does the rabbi do that for you and not for me?
Yeah.
And it's like, without my tooting my own horn, and saying, well, this is why, it's like, it's the backlash.
It's very true. It's very true. I'm now remembering more details. I think this person had one of the conditions for this anonymous guy is like, don't ever call, I'll call you. And it was like this very strange asymmetrical thing, but you're right. And I think part of what the mission is trying to keep a balance of is that we all have something to offer the world. And we should all do the very best we can to give the most of ourselves in ways that like is nourishing and restorative and contributory. But there's a way in which, like, when it's expected, it's diminished, right? In other words, part of jealousy and these things is like a person feels a sense of entitlement for something that is not theirs, and that works in both directions. Both it's in a partnership, like how come you didn't make me breakfast or lunch? Make it tasty. Why should I be making you breakfast? Like in other words, the space between expectations, right, and reality is what creates the disappointment. When a person feels that they have whatever they need, then anything that they get, anything that somebody does for them, it's extra. I wasn't expecting it. And so it's a wonderful, just, and this is the idea. We wake up in the morning, we say, Ma'ida'ani, we say, thank you, Hashem. When we go to sleep at night, we don't know if we're going to wake up. We don't know. Person who wakes up in the morning, there's that sense of gratitude, right? I woke up yesterday morning and the day before, and for the last 41 and a half years, you bet I'll wake up tomorrow, God willing. But a person should wake up in the morning saying, I had no idea. I wasn't expecting it. It's a different way of waking up in the morning. If you just feel like, what a blessing. I had no idea. I went to sleep last night. I had no, if it wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to be. I had no idea. So now I wake up in the morning. What a day. I can, and if a person sees that, like, I'm going to get upset at somebody at a convenience store, at a shop because they forgot to take off. This is my day that, like, I didn't even know I was going to have, right? And when we don't feel entitled to it, right, then, like, it's just a different sensation. I know we're out of time, but Hannah, did you have a...
I was just going to tell you a little story, but it can...
Wait till tomorrow. All right, so tomorrow we'll
wait.
Story times. I hope that everybody has a wonderful day. Hanukkah is a time of Hida'ah and Hala. It's a time of Thanksgiving. It's worth thinking about, what do I feel entitled to? That maybe the world would be happier if I wasn't feeling such a claim on it. All right, see everybody tomorrow, God willing. Take care.